Every single day, billions of people around the world press a small handle or button and watch as their waste disappears in a swirl of water, never thinking twice about where it actually goes. It's a part of daily life so mundane, so routine, that it barely registers in our minds. But the moment you flush the toilet, you are triggering an incredibly complex, often invisible system that works tirelessly beneath our feet. This system, hidden in tunnels, pipes, and treatment plants, is one of the greatest unsung achievements of modern civilization. The journey of your waste doesn't end in your toilet bowl. In fact, that's just the beginning of a long and intricate process. To truly appreciate this system, you need to understand what happens behind the scenes. The moment you flush, gravity takes over. The waste and water you've just released enter a pipe called the lateral sewer line, which connects your toilet to a much larger network of pipes buried beneath the city. These pipes slope downward, allowing the waste to travel without the need for pumping in most cases. But as it travels farther, this waste combines with everything else that's been flushed or drained: bathwater, kitchen sink runoff, rainwater from the streets, and everything else that enters the sewer system. It's a stew of human life, all funneling through massive underground networks that can stretch for hundreds or even thousands of kilometers. What's in that mix isn't just water and waste. It contains bacteria, viruses, industrial chemicals, pharmaceuticals, microplastics, and all sorts of things. People flush down the toilet thinking they'll simply vanish forever. Diapers, wet wipes, feminine hygiene products, and even syringes often make their way into the system. Despite public awareness campaigns, people flush astonishing amounts of material that shouldn't be in the pipes. These non-biodegradable items can clog systems, damage pumps, and create blockages so massive they've been dubbed fatbergs, giant, greasy, trash-packed masses that have to be broken apart by hand or machinery in some cities. Once the waste reaches the main sewer lines, it eventually ends up at a wastewater treatment plant. This is where the real magic happens, where the revolting becomes manageable, and where filthy becomes clean. These facilities are marvels of engineering, chemistry, and biology. First, the wastewater goes through a process called primary treatment. Here, large screens remove sticks, trash, and other debris. Then, the sewage enters sedimentation tanks where the heavier solids sink to the bottom, forming a thick sludge. The grease and oils float to the top and are skimmed off. But even after this, the water is still far from clean. The next step is secondary treatment. This is where microorganisms, tiny, hungry bacteria, and protozoa are used to consume organic matter. The wastewater is aerated, meaning air is pumped through it to help these microscopic workers thrive. They break down anything remaining in the water: human waste, food particles, and other biodegradable material. This biological stage can last several hours to several days, depending on the plant's design and load. By the end of it, most harmful substances have been removed. The treated water, often called effluent, is then either discharged into rivers, lakes, or oceans, or it goes through a third stage, tertiary treatment, if a higher level of purification is needed. This final step might involve filtration, chemical disinfection with chlorine, or ultraviolet light to kill off any remaining pathogens. In some areas, the cleaned water is even pure enough to be reused for irrigation, industrial use, or replenishing groundwater supplies. In rare cases, it can even be purified further and used as drinking water, although public acceptance of this idea, known as toilet to tap, remains a challenge. But what about the sludge that settled at the bottom back in the early stages of treatment? This doesn't just get thrown away. It too goes through a process, often being digested anaerobically, meaning in the absence of oxygen, by bacteria that break it down further and produce methane gas as a byproduct. That gas can be captured and used to generate electricity or heat for the facility itself. The remaining solid sludge is then dewatered and can be used as fertilizer, burned for energy, or, in some cases, disposed of in landfills. However, concerns about the presence of heavy metals and pharmaceuticals in biosolids have led to increasing scrutiny and regulation of these practices. As advanced as our sewage systems are, they're still far from perfect. In many developing countries, open defecation is still a reality, and sewage often flows untreated into rivers and oceans, contaminating drinking water and spreading disease. Even in wealthy nations, aging infrastructure poses serious challenges. Many sewer systems are more than a century old and struggle to handle modern waste loads and increased rainfall due to climate change. Combined sewer systems, which carry both wastewater and stormwater, can overflow during heavy rain, discharging raw sewage directly into the environment. One of the most fascinating parts of this story is how human waste, something we're culturally conditioned to find disgusting, is actually full of valuable resources. Urine contains nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, the very ingredients in commercial fertilizers. In fact, researchers have been exploring ways to recover nutrients from wastewater and return them to agriculture, closing a loop that has been broken for decades. There's even research into extracting rare earth metals and other trace materials from sewage sludge. What we flush might one day power our homes or feed our crops. We also can't ignore the privacy angle. Scientists and governments have discovered that wastewater is a goldmine of public health data. By analyzing sewage, researchers can track the spread of diseases like COVID-19, monitor drug use in specific neighborhoods, and even detect the presence of specific chemicals or environmental toxins. This field, known as wastewater epidemiology, is growing rapidly and may one day become a routine part of city management.